Stop with the questions. Celebrate.
And then they say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person. Yosemite's one of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water.
Mike Lindell's a conspiracy.
But you haven't. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
Amazing.
He can't sit down. He's got a burning in his butthole. He's got a fire. He's got a flame coming out of his butthole.
Big, massive dumps.
Oh, I have a term for that. I call it corporate communism.
Somebody sent me a thing this morning where they're talking about putting the vaccine into salad dressing.
You see, this is a simple meme that you would find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
You ain't seen nothing yet until you see the flaming butthole.
Putting us on our knees to China.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
We have to keep our country gay.
Oh yeah.
Nation, Waldorf Nation. What's up, everybody? Happy Indigenous Peoples Day today, because you know what? Fuck Columbus. Asshole. That's a great way to start the show, by the way. Talking about how much of an asshole Columbus was. And by the way, not just asshole, but genocidal, maniac, horrifying. You know, just all the words that still don't do him justice. But hey, welcome to the show. We're gonna celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day by having some fun. So, and by the way, happy Thanksgiving from Canada, says RTC Tycoon 13. By the way, thank you TYT for the raid. Really, really appreciate it. I'm sure you all are gonna have a lot of fun. We've got fun stories. We have, of course, more Donald Trump document drama as usual. We're also going to talk about a MAGA Chud deciding to throw some stuff at a comedian, and it was not a tomato. So do that. Matt Gaetz versus education, fun. MAGA loving Putin, and then we are going to get into a story about corruption and how private insurance companies are scamming everybody. We already knew that, but they're scamming Medicare at such a gigantic degree that it's just unbelievable. And how believable it is. So, anyway, all right. We'll start out. Actually, I want to start out with a little bit of fun. Something that I found out over the weekend. It seems like I keep ending up in documentaries. Weirdly. Somehow, let me show you a good example here, or the newest example. A friend of mine actually brought this to my attention. So there's a documentary about the Lincoln Project that's out, that's on Showtime. And, you know, my friend was watching it, and I get this message yesterday. Like, he's like, hey, you're in this documentary. Let me show you the relevant part here where I show up. And again, this is just fun.
It's honestly remarkable. The Lincoln Project.
The Lincoln Project.
The Lincoln Project. Trump is threatening to sue the Lincoln Project.
We're delighted by the thought you would try to sue us, Donald.
Well, that was unexpected. And appearing next to the great J.R. Jackson. So that's always welcome. Look at that. I'm on Showtime. for like 5 seconds. But still, showtime. Showtime. Nailed it. But yes, JR in there, great job. And of course, you had the Hill, all talking about this, this Lincoln Project. So that's crazy. Do they need to ask your permission? No, I had no idea. This is literally the second documentary I ended up in. The first one was actually about the 2016 Democratic primary. So it's weird stuff. It's going on. Weird stuff. But I'll take it. It may be 5 seconds, and of course, it was just my bare ass wall back there. But hey, you know what? We're having fun here. Yeah, put that on your resume. I would love to be able to use that to be verified on Twitter. I know. If just 15 microsecond moment, it was probably not even that long, but still funny. It's just funny to see. All right. So that said, I wanted to share that with you because again, it's an interesting moment. And really the fun thing about that is not just for the length that I was in there, but just the fact that somebody, an editor, producer, went through, found one of my videos and took that and put that in the documentary. Somebody's paying attention here. Someone's paying attention. I don't know who it is, but I hear people are watching. There are people watching out there. Okay. Anyway, let's get into the stories. We'll have some fun. Before we do, Donald Trump and the secret documents. It's like an even worse Harry Potter. Donald Trump and the secret documents. All right, it's one of those days where I'm feeling very strange. It's a different mood today. All right. The investigation into former President Donald Trump taking documents from the White House following his ouster in 2020 continues to produce some new and interesting tidbits of information, some little tiddly bits, including how Trump had floated the possibility of using the documents that he had stolen that did not belong to him as a form of ransom for other documents. I'm not kidding. This is the kind of insane plan that only someone like Donald Trump would come up with. So let me give you the details. According to Insider, former President Donald Trump late last year had floated the idea to aides of swapping the files that he took from the White House to Mar-a-Lago in exchange for sensitive documents about the FBI investigation of his 2016 campaign's ties to Russia, according to the New York Times. So now the National Archives had been politely asking for Trump to return documents that didn't belong to him. If you and I had done so, the FBI would have not asked nicely. Nobody would have asked nicely. We would have been immediately arrested and charged with the Espionage Act. And so, no, but Donald Trump, he was a former president. So, of course, they had to beg him, plead with him. Donald, please, just return the documents. We'll let everything go. Just give us back the stuff. Please. We're going to give you the 14th chance to return the documents. No, these documents, they're mine. They're my documents. I'm going to keep all of them. Why would you want to keep all of them? Well, it turns out we have a reason. So, look, Trump was pretty angry that the National Archives wouldn't give him the Russia probe documents. And so, look, we can learn from that, and through, I guess, any of his Truth Social or
Truth Central,
any of his posts there on social media, whatever social media he has left, that he's incredibly salty about the Russia probe. Still, I mean, this is the we're talking Egyptian nature salty, okay? The levels of salt that we've never even heard of before, that we've never seen. It is salty from the standpoint of salt. Anyway, the Times claims that he felt these documents would back up his dubious claims of, like, no collusion, no obstruction. Well, there's definitely obstruction. The thing is, Mueller, in his report, punted to the DOJ. The DOJ, of course, obviously did nothing with it because they were Donald Trump's DOJ. And so, look, when I think about that, it's like, okay, Donald Trump gets off scot-free. You should be happy about this, right? No, he's still mad about it. And I can't understand why. But again, we're dealing with Donald Trump here, who is the consummate snowflake. So, look, it's funny, too, because there's been so many different scandals involving Donald Trump. I think a lot of us have forgotten about some of the earlier ones. But apparently he has not, and he wanted to trade. Trump told advisors that in order to obtain access to the documents, he would give the archives the boxes of materials that were stored in Mar-a-Lago, according to the newspaper. Of course, not only does that, show that he knew that he wasn't supposed to have the documents, because they didn't belong to him, but also knew of their importance. Or maybe he didn't know of the importance if he was willing to trade some of this very top secret intelligence for the Russia stuff, right? So, yeah, maybe he knew they had a lot of value, or maybe they didn't. I don't know. But of course, aides to the former president decided to not go through with his harebrained idea because, honestly, that's kind of how it worked. Donald Trump would come up with a stupid idea. His aides would say, oh, yeah, sure. And then he'd forget about it later. Or they'd ask him about it. Oh, yeah, sir, yep, we're working on it, sir. Absolutely. We're working hard. We're working hard. Well, we're going to get that done. And then he'll just forget about it in like a couple of weeks. But, look, here's the thing. Doing this would have been obstruction. Almost certainly. And I don't even know what crimes associated with trying to hold these documents at ransom. But when it comes to Trump, obviously, laws don't matter to him at all, at least when it comes to himself and having to follow these laws. But there's other issues, right? Other issues of how he treated these documents when they were in his custody, which, by the way, the federal officials still think that there might be some of these documents in his custody that have even had made photocopies. But one of the things they had an issue with about storing these documents is his tendency to bring them into the bedroom. So I guess he brings these documents into the bedroom, with his Diet Coke and his hamburger or, whatever, chicken nuggies. Okay. And he would, I guess, leave it in there. And sure, you could make an argument that, hey, look, a president, sometimes they do that. Sometimes they take their work into their private residence. They want to put in some extra hours and maybe not be at the office, right? Well, here's the issue, right? With Trump, he loses these things. He either loses them or intentionally gets rid of them, by maybe ripping them up and flushing them down the personal toilet.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times.
And look, during Trump's third year in office, top White House officials were aware of specific files being left in places where they were not supposed to be, were not intended to be stored. So now what's interesting about that is let's kind of compare this to Hillary Clinton's server. Because I know there's always the whataboutism, right? Now, the FBI investigation did find that Clinton and her staff were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information. Now, that investigation, of course, was headed up by former FBI Director James Comey, which wasn't exactly a friend of the Clintons, wasn't exactly a friend of, turned out to be a friend of Donald Trump either. So now Trump gets into office, he's like, hold my beer. Hold my Diet Coke, actually. And then does a lot worse than what Hillary Clinton was purported to do. Which, by the way, I have said that she was incredibly irresponsible with the way that she handled classified information. And then, of course, did lie about it later, saying, oh, I don't have any classified information in my email server. No, they found tons of documents. Thousands of documents that did have that classification. But still, okay, he took the documents home to Mar-a-Lago in paper form, and then put them in a storage room, maybe with a single lock, but we don't really know. But then he also puts it in his office and then leaves them in several other places. It's a mess. So now what earned Hillary Clinton, and this is why it's important to bring this up, the lock her up chant. What earned her that was bad, yes, but it's nowhere near Donald Trump. And yet MAGA, when they hear this, they give a collective shrug. They do not care. They don't give a damn about what Donald Trump did. Either it's fake news or somehow Trump magically declassified it with his brainwaves just by thinking about it. You know, he's the new Professor X over here. Professor X Lax, more like. Or, you know, it just doesn't matter to Republicans, to right-wingers, because we don't care what Donald Trump did. And by the way, hey, look over there. A trans girl might actually be able to play sports in high school. Get her. At the end of the day, you have to understand that when it comes to Donald Trump, when it comes to the right wing, hypocrisy doesn't matter. It's all about owning the libs. And so if you have to undertake massive hypocrisy to do that, that's what they're going to do. It's all that matters. Okay. Anyway. Let's get to the next fun story. We got some video. Sometimes it seems like no matter what you do, you can't seem to get away from politics. I mean, you drive down the road some places, there's countless Donald Trump 2024 signs. You got massive ads in the TV. You got the crazy news cycle that we're in. But now, politics is getting into comedy. It's not good. In fact, take a look at what happened at one comedy show in New Jersey.
Did I vote for Donald Trump? What do you think? No. Okay. Here's a question for you. Why would you ask me that in here knowing I'm the only Jew in this room? Are you trying to get me killed? If it makes you feel any better, I vote in New York. My vote doesn't matter there. It doesn't matter here either. It doesn't matter. Guys, everybody vote for whoever you want to vote. I don't care who you voted for. I'm just happy we're all here together.
Okay, so right now, you could see that she was like, hey, look, we're here to have fun, all right? I'm here to tell jokes. I'm not even talking about political content. I don't really want to talk about Donald Trump. I don't want to talk about Biden. I don't care. And by the way, neither does anyone else. Because I don't know if MAGA seems to realize this, MAGA people, but we don't make candidates for office our entire personality. I think that's an important thing to note. Like, understand that that's why one of the reasons Biden had smaller crowds, okay? Then, because look, Donald Trump would come out, oh, Biden couldn't have won the small crowds. Okay, sure. That and Biden wasn't necessarily all that exciting. Whereas Donald Trump, entertaining. Insane, horrible, but entertaining and actually kind of funny when you disconnect yourself from the politics, right? That said, Biden didn't have a lot of, people like wearing the gear and, sporting the Biden stuff. There's no Biden hats, but Trump people, they're on another level, man. They got the hats, they got the t-shirts, they got the weird ass fan art. They got the people covering their entire houses and like Trump stuff. It's bizarre. It's super bizarre. What a weird thing. I mean, getting tattoos of Donald Trump, sometimes on their forehead, it's weird. And look, if you ask them, they'll be like, oh, what? Are you triggered? Are you triggered right now? No, man, it's just weird. Like, are you okay mentally? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Why are you making these weird decisions? I mean, you can do so whatever you want, but that's weird. As I've said it before, MAGA is not a political movement. It's at the most charitable. You could call it a fan club, but at worst, to me, it's a celebrity cult. That said, this comic who's Ariel Elias, right? Or Elias. Apologies, because I just murder people's names. Well, she was doing the set, and she was like, look, all right, you want to talk about Biden? Fine. Okay, but we're going to move on, because we're not really interested in doing this. But look, this woman, MAGA Chud, she wasn't having it. She was going to press.
You voted for Biden.
I don't know. Why does it matter? Yeah, so what? What does it matter?
I can just tell by your jokes you voted for Biden.
Why are we going
All right. I can tell by the fact that you're still talking when nobody wants you to that you voted for Trump. All right, make some noise if you want her to shut up. But I did ask if anybody had any questions. I didn't think it was going to be. That's on me. That was on me for thinking I could have a human interaction with somebody. That's my fault.
Okay. So, look, when she said, yeah, I can tell by the fact that, you know, you're still talking when nobody wants you, that you voted for Trump. And that, I cannot state how true that is. That's, I mean, look, I've been saying it for a long time. For people that call themselves a silent generation, they can't seem to shut the fuck up, like, ever, about Trump. This specifically about Donald Trump. And sure, you could be like, oh yeah, well, you're always talking about Donald Trump. That's because I do the news, dude. Like, literally, that's my job. I like to discuss the news, and the news happens to involve, unfortunately, a lot of Donald Trump. So I'm not a normie, but the people at the comedy club, they're normies. They're there to have some fun, have some drinks, hear some jokes, get some laughs, not to sit there and listen to MAGA chuds go off, oh, did you vote for Biden? No, she didn't make any Trump jokes. That said, look, she handled it really well. And look, as some of you point out, yeah, good comedians, they encourage or like hecklers to show up because then that's good material and, you know, all that stuff. But like, this is where it crosses the line from, yeah, simple, you know, heckling, whatever, put that, you know, lady in its place, in her place. And then it goes further.
Look, I'm such an insecure person. Here, I'll tell you the rest of that bit, and then we'll move on. I'm so insecure. I went and got an IUD. Oh!
Come on, buddy. Can't do that. Are you fucking kidding me? Yo, I'm never coming out with this group of people ever again. Straight up? Yeah.
All right, so let me just first point out power move. You take the beer that has been lobbed at your head and you chug it. I don't look, maybe I don't know what they call a female Chad, like a Stacy or something. But okay, that's a female Chad move. I love it. I love it. Now, secondly, of course, the person who lobbed that beer, not a Chad. Not a Chad at all. In fact, you know, that you could say that they're
beta.
Yeah. Now, tweets posted later by Alias in the comedy club indicated that the person who had allegedly threw that beer can was the husband of the woman who had been attempting to heckle her. So this is according to the New Jersey comedy club, Uncle Vinny's. Hey, Ariel, just want you to know that we found the guy's name and we're pressing charges today, which is awesome. And then added, it was the woman's white trash husband, who had apparently, by the way, run out of the club after throwing the beer because, you know, that's like a super, you know, alpha male thing. No, what it is
beta male.
That's what it is. Look, this entire incident, it really does illustrate that a lot of the hardcore MAGA people, what they're doing is they're looking for attention. And they're looking for grievance. And yes, of course, alcohol did play a role in this, in lowering inhibitions. But understand, as far as wanting attention seeking, grievance seeking, well, that's who they are. That's who they are. Now, as far as Elias, again, she took it very, very well. Damn well, by the way. And again, engaged with the heckler, pretty much owned her to the point of where the husband got real salty. Now, in a tweet on Sunday evening, Elias jokes that she hoped that somebody would let her teachers know that, quote, chugging a beer has in fact been great for my career, as is, of course, probably all of the people covering this event. So, well done. Well done. What kind of beer? It matters. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that was like a Pabst or something. A PBR. I don't know. Or maybe just like a Bud Light, because it seems like one of those things. Because let me tell you, like, Bud Light is like super cheap, but not as cheap as Natural Light. Really, I could assume Natural Light is more like it's got to be more of the choice of chuds. Natty Light, yeah, exactly. Bud Light is not beer. Jeff, you are European, so you're kind of like excluded from the American beer conversation here, since you're German, and Germany has far different standards of beer. And I mean higher standards of beer. We're talking about American here, okay? Talking about American beer. Natty Light, the official beer of Florida Man. If you've ever had Natty Ice, then you have known, well, you have known sorrow and pain. That's all I have to say. Sorry, not sorry. Okay. Hey, I drink Natty Light. It's just Vegas. I'm sorry. That's all I have to say. Are you in like difficult financial situation? Because that's one. I guess that's one legitimate reason to drink that. Because I don't think anybody else would, unless they're hurting. You okay? Can help you out. We're a community. All right. It's called college. Yeah, that's a good point, XQ. That's a good point. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. We got Matt Gaetz. Loves a poorly educated. Matt Gaetz, Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, loves the poorly educated, which is why, of course, he wants to make more poorly educated people by eliminating the Department of Education. In fact, his comments came in after a tweet that he responded to from a post from Representative Mark Green. Now, Mark Green's a Tennessee Republican who is touting something called a Parents' Bill of Rights proposal. So this is something from the Republican House that wants to give parents rights in education. Okay. Now, Green's tweet said, our Parents' Bill of Rights is going to ensure that parents know exactly what their children are being taught in the classroom and have a say in their education. Hashtag commitment to America. Now, Gaetz. So Gaetz does one of these things that Republicans do and goes after so-called rhinos in his party, right? So here's what he wrote. Call me old-fashioned, but I'm actually for ending the federal government's role in education, not enhancing it with new Congress-vested rights. And then added, abolish the federal Department of Education. That should be our commitment to America. Instead, we meme lame commitments. So, again, going after a member of his own party and then saying, look at me, I can be even more extreme by saying, let's get rid of the Department of Education. Now, of course, Matt Gaetz is not the first person to have said that. In fact, a lot of Republicans love to get rid of, these government programs or these government agencies, as well as programs. And so this is really nothing new. Well, we've seen it now for the first time from Matt Gaetz. Okay. So that said, let's actually break down what this, Parental Bill of Rights is first. All right. So there it is. It's right from the Republican, Speaker McCarthy, not Speaker, sorry, House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy. This was from in 2021, so it was last year's. And, well, number one, right to know what's being taught in schools and to see the reading material. Now, basically that means we want to know if the kids are learning about how racism is bad. And if we find out, then we're going to try to ban it. Oh, and we also want to read to make sure our kids, are not learning about the existence of gay and trans people, because if we find that out, like in Florida, we're going to get rid of that too. Okay, well, there you go. The right to be heard. I don't know what that means. How are you not being heard? The MAGA people, right-wingers, you're the loudest motherfuckers around. You never shut up. Ever. It's constant screaming and hollering and crying about everything. About things that don't actually happen. They make up something that is not actually happening and then scream and cry about it. So I don't know what they're talking about. Oh, we're not heard. We're not heard. Okay, whatever. More. Right to see school budget and spending. Again, that's related to, we want to make sure none of our money is being spent teaching how, racism bad or gay people exist. Okay. Right to protect children's privacy. Well, that's interesting because, sure, we'll protect their privacy unless they're gay or trans. Then the school will be mandated, like in Florida, to tell parents about their identities, even if that means that child will be kicked out of their home, punished if they live in, for example, a right-wing religious environment. So we don't actually care about children's privacy. We just want to make sure to say things like that when we actually mean the opposite. Great. And then finally, right to be updated on any violent activity at the school. Now, look, that might actually sound reasonable, right? But here's the thing. When you look at the violent activity at school, usually means one of two things. Mass shootings, which Republicans have done nothing about. They don't really care. They make sure that anyone and everyone can get a gun and that there's more guns in circulation. And the other thing that it means is more police in schools beating up black students, because that's what happens. In fact, the more cops you have stationed at these schools with black and brown students, the more black and brown students get arrested and go to prison. So, again, both are grounds for right-wing priorities. Sell more guns for the gun manufacturers and scare people into supporting more police in schools, which, again, do not stop mass shootings and lead to more black and brown students being pushed down the school to prison pipeline, which is great for prison corporations, private prisons. So, no surprise, this parental rights bill just seems like more culture war nonsense. That said, of course, Republicans have always wanted to eliminate the Department of Education. And what would that do? That would get rid of national standards for education. National standards like, I don't know, teaching things like science and math. Facts. Now, that said, while I do believe that there are some pretty glaring issues with our current education system and the goals of what that is, and how, we really do need to teach more critical thinking and get out of the, mentality of teaching kids how to do jobs that require, conformity, things like factory jobs, which no longer exist, and, get rid of things like standardized testing, etc. And also, by the way, these schools do not accommodate neurodivergent students very well either. And so those are some issues, right? But what Gates is looking to do is to make public education worse by getting rid of old standards. Because what you would do is that you would end up having every school district having all different standards, different curriculums, and it would be a mess. It would be a complete and utter disaster because every different place would have sometimes massively different standards. But I guess that's the point. They want to do that. look, what we have, and I agree that I think education should be left to educators. And they should be able to teach facts. The whole point of school is to gain knowledge. That's the point. Unfortunately, now right-wingers have put education as part of the culture war. Fox News poll, for example, from last October found that 50% of likely voters said that parents should be telling schools what to teach, while 40% said that they shouldn't. The survey found registered voters were split, 45% saying parents should be telling schools what to teach, and 43% saying they shouldn't. Now, look, let me explain why I'm in the shouldn't camp. Because I understand, like, parents are like, well, but no, I want to make sure our kids are getting the best education. I get that. I get that. Unfortunately, there are a lot of parents out there that want the schools to teach things that kids things that are not true. Like literal creationism. Okay? Things that aren't factual. Things like, do you know the earth is 6,000 years old? Do you know that it's also flat? Or that there are demons that live in your fantasy novels? Or just things that are like, yeah, you know, you might hear all these things about climate change, but and how, you know, emitting massive amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere could accelerate climate change far beyond the natural levels over a short period of time. All that is nonsense, and carbon is great. Oil is awesome. Go coal. That's the kind of stuff that I'm afraid these parents are going to try to put into schools. And by the way, there have already been right-wing groups that have tried to push this stuff. So I don't want those people telling teachers what they're allowed to teach or what they should be teaching. And so, look, those beliefs, they're going to hurt the kids in the end. You don't want that. Because it turns out a solid grasp of reality is going to get you much further in life than believing in nonsense fairy tales. But honestly, again, that's the point, right? That's why right-wingers don't like this. An educated populace, a populace that is able to critically think and challenge authority, that's bad for the far right. That's bad for the establishment. And it's bad because, well, they're harder to mislead, they're harder to trick with nonsense. We had critical thinking. We had, you know, a challenge in the system, challenge of the status quo. Then we wouldn't still have people believing that the wealth will eventually trickle down. And so, I don't know, I'm trying to prevent people from getting misled. I'm trying to prevent people from getting, you know, screwed over and voting against and supporting people that do not have their best interests in mind. Unfortunately, I seem to be, at this point, in the minority. That sucks. As Shay Mullen, no math, no science, no questioning, no humans. Sad. All right. Moving on.
No, look, I'm such an insecure person.
There's insanity in the control room. It's a Monday, guys. Gals. You know it is.
There's insanity in the control room.
Of Russia and the Ukraine conflict. What's your
my opinion? You know, I grew up in 40 years, you know, under the Russian thing, and I love Putin. I love Putin. Putin is making the right, you know, what the American people is built over there. He wants to clean them out, you know.
He wants to get rid of Americans?
Clean them out, all the biochemical place, everything, and the nuclear thing. Yeah.
We'll have to talk more about this because
he's a good president, you know. Number 2 after President 1. Number 2. I love him.
All right, so that supporter of former President Donald Trump was not actually talking about poutine or anything like that, which apparently is a dish that is beloved in Canada and other places. No, she was actually talking about how she loves the dictator of Russia. Yeah. So now this is part of a series of videos posted by commentator Ron Filipowski at a Trump rally. So before I go into more videos, because there's a lot more. There's more fun, right? Let me just note how it is so bizarre that so many MAGA people love Vladimir Putin. I mean, okay, it's very, very strange. Putin was a former KGB officer or agent in the Soviet Union, right? Now he's a corrupt oligarch whose opponents seem to mysteriously, fall through windows or, yes, polonium. Weirdly, although I'm sure that's just an accident. Yes, just very much an accident. But look, like the irony of the America First people loving the Russian president, that's kind of bizarre, really. It's super, super weird. Now, here's the thing, though. A lot of people, unfortunately, tend to conflate Putin with the Russian people. So let me just say this. Don't hate Russian people. Russian people are not bad people. They're people, just like anyone else. There's good people, there's bad people, there's people with crappy beliefs, there's people with great beliefs, right? And so let me just note that it's kind of gross that I hear some people that are on the left, or some more, I guess, more establishment centrist libs that are in favor of blocking Russian refugees from trying to flee the country. Now, they're fleeing the country to try to avoid being drafted into Putin's disastrous war, his invasion into Ukraine. And so there are people that are like, oh, no, good, they could stay. They could go there and fight in that war. Yeah. Wait, no, that's not good. No, they're trying to escape the war to get away from having to fight the war for Putin. They don't want to serve Putin. Okay, so anyway, look, let me just note that Russian people, again, they're not bad, because there are a lot of amazing Russians who stood up against Putin, who have demonstrated against Putin, who have protested against the war and the invasion and have fought back against Putin. So now these people have been arrested, they've disappeared, they've been subject to brutal crackdown after brutal crackdown by the regime. And that's the issue here. The Russian government is the problem. Putin is a problem. By the way, let me just also talk about this kind of in the same vein of the right-wing government of Israel, bad. The Israeli people, lovely, wonderful, for the most part. And of course, there are unfortunately those who agree with the right-wing politics. And I think they're wrong when they, treat Palestinians as if they're not human beings. And of course, you can also criticize, and you can take these criticisms, and by the way, and say, the leaders of the Palestinians, for example, also garbage. Like Hamas, garbage. Okay? Putin, garbage. So let me be fair about that, right? So now that said, back to right-wingers, they want a dictator. They want a Putin in America. And here in America, they see the Putin as Donald Trump. So that's why they love him. They love Putin. All the things they yell about liberals, wanting power and just wanting to control your life. Understand what that is. That's projection. That's them. That said, let's get to another clip, right? And this is a little bit more fun. This is talking to more Trump supporters.
Trump is the first president since Reagan that actually cares about this country. He's not in it for money. He's already a self-made millionaire. He doesn't do it for money. He's the only person that's not a career politician that's actually really cared and try and fix everything that's wrong, from all the bad trade deals with China, boosting our military, bringing God back. I mean, Trump's been phenomenal in my mind as far as what he's done.
Do your research. Even if you say you're a liberal, a Democrat, it doesn't mean you're a socialist. You are old school Democrats probably. Do the deep dive, do the research, and make up your mind not based on who's telling you what. Make up your own mind. Look at the facts. Stop listening to the talking heads. Use your brain, research.
We put the bioweapon labs under Obama, and Obama said, oh yeah, we'll give up the nukes and we got your back. We helped cause this with Ukraine under Obama. So I understand why Russia's in there doing what they're doing with the whole denazification of the Donbass region, because so many Ukrainian nationalists seem to be full-blown Nazis these days. A lot of the media I've seen come out of the Russians taking POW. These guys got swastikas all over them tattooed. And I'm like, well, our media doesn't like to play that, though. It's really interesting how that works.
All right. Let me just say, it's amazing they had to work in Obama. Oh, it's Obama's fault. That's what it is. It's Obama's fault. He did this. Okay. I mean, whatever, man. So let's start with the irony. There was a lot of it. But let's start out with that woman saying, do your research. And then followed up by the man who apparently did do his own research and came up with things that are just patently not true. Things that are actual, literal Russian propaganda. That's not to say that there isn't Western propaganda. That's not to say there isn't Ukrainian propaganda. Of course, every government does propaganda, which is why us as normal people, we need to exercise caution over, narratives that will come from certain places, certain governments. For example, treat like Russian stuff that comes out of the Russian government or the Chinese government the same as you would treat the State Department, because understand all those, they're going to put out propaganda, right? That's going to advance their own particular narratives for their own, obviously, goals. And so you got to really kind of use critical thinking and suss the facts out. That said, when you look, you realize there are no bioweapons labs in Ukraine. There are bio labs. Those are not the same thing. Understand? Ukraine has not been developing biological weapons. That is not the reason that they were invaded by Putin. Again, no evidence of biological weapons, but understand that narrative is part of the Russian propaganda campaign to try to justify their invasion, which really, again, this is kind of a land grab. And then, of course, there's the denazification. Well, I mean, I hate Nazis. You hate Nazis, right? I mean, we all hate Nazis. But theoretically, right? Right? I mean, well, turns out, not everybody hates Nazis. Turns out the neo-Nazis at the Unite the Right rally, do you remember them? The ones who chanted Jews won't replace us, blood and soil, etc. In fact, one of their number even struck and killed a leftist activist named Heather Heyer with his vehicle. You remember those? Well, Donald Trump said that there were good people on both sides. Good people on the neo-Nazi side. And so when you look at that and you try to square it with that guy saying, oh, we got to we're going to denazify Ukraine. There's so many Nazis there. Okay, well, it's weird because Nazis seem to favor one end of the political spectrum far more than the other. And do you wonder why? Well, the right is pro-military, pro-Christian nationalism, and very anti-Semitic. We've seen more than enough examples of that. Anti-trans, anti-gay, anti-immigration. So that's the right wing, and also happens to be some policies of the Nazis. And yet this guy claims to be on the side of denazification in Ukraine. Well, hey, if you hate Nazis, like every good American citizen should, well, you might want to look at your own side, which happens to be, well, let's just say that they happen to have their own Nazi problem. Instead of focusing on Ukraine, who, by the way, were there Ukrainian Nazis? Was there the Azov Battalion? Yeah. Yes, that existed. Does the existence of the Azov Battalion make every Ukrainian a Nazi? No. No, it doesn't. That said, look, Putin's war is unjustified. It needs to end. There's a massive loss of life and destruction for literally no reason. None at all. But that said, let me get to what creates this. These, as some of you point out, alternative facts, right? Well, U.S. media and how untrusted it is. And by the way, for good reason. There's a legitimate reason to distrust U.S. media, corporate media. A lot of it is, as I mentioned before, is propaganda. Outlets will, for example, take State Department press releases and pass them off uncritically as 100% fact. Well, the State Department said. Okay, but the State Department is wrong. Look, a good example of that is we had the majority of people in 2003 believe that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and that he was working with Al Qaeda, which not true at all. Not true at all. And yet there were tons of people, thanks to U.S. media, that were lied into supporting the invasion of Iraq, which was an absolute debacle. And so, yes, that is a good example how U.S. media lied and let people down and did not give factual information. And so, look, that example, and there are many others, of how U.S. media has rightly earned distrust from a lot of people. And as a result, that will, cause some of these people to seek out different sources of information. Now, that could be a good thing. If you can find independent media like, TYT, The Lever, myself, Ring of Fire, The Intercept, there's numerous other wonderful, sources of information, right? And if they find those, that's great. But it can also lead to people finding Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, or other just insane people, Ben Shapiro. So, yeah, there is an upside, but there's also a gigantic downside to the fact that our corporate media has not been responsible in the past. And, well, you can really see that play out. And not just this, but a lot of these interviews with MAGA supporters. All right. Anyway, one last story, and actually I will give credit to to mainstream media, to corporate media, weirdly enough, because they actually did a really good report on this, and I'm surprised they were allowed to publish it. Okay. An in-depth report by the New York Times has uncovered that private insurance companies are systematically robbing Medicare using the Medicare Advantage program. So now look, this of course comes as no surprise. We know private companies consistently rip off government programs and use that to try to privatize to get more profits. Nonetheless, let's get into some of the details here. According to an analysis of dozens of lawsuits, Inspector General reports, and watchdog investigations, they had found evidence of massive overbilling by Medicare Advantage providers, the government. So the details of which are actually very simple, and we'll get into that. Medicare Advantage plans are run by private for-profit insurance companies that are able to get government money. Now, their only goal is to maximize profit. And they've, of course, done so by squeezing every nickel they can out of the government by essentially overinflating the billing that they submit to the federal government. Now, they say the practice is so pervasive and lucrative that it even exceeds the budgets of entire federal agencies, which means your money going right into the pockets of private health insurance companies. There's not a damn you can do about it. Now, nearly half of Medicare's 60 million beneficiaries are now enrolled in MA plans managed by these for-profit insurance companies, and it's actually picking up in Democratic-held districts, which is very, very concerning, and it's expected that most of the nation's seniors will soon be ensnared in the private sector alternative to traditional Medicare by next year. Now, this report goes into how just about every major player in the industry has been accused by fraud by either whistleblowers or the U.S. government. In addition, the vast majority are engaged in rampant upcoding or exaggerating the patient's illnesses in order to reap more money from taxpayers, while refusing to provide the necessary care for tens of thousands each year. So again, they upcode, demand more reimbursement, and then deny people. It's horrible. It's an incredible grift that is going on, and it is because our government has allowed private insurance companies to privatize parts of Medicare, and they're going to continue to try to privatize even more. In fact, they're using this model and saying, look at how wonderful it works. This Medicare Advantage plan, why don't we add more of this stuff? Why don't we start to outsource more of this to the private industry? Now, Larry Levitt, Executive Vice President for Health Policy at Kaiser Family Foundation, wrote on social media that, quote, the move to private Medicare has been very profitable, in part because insurers are so good at making their patients seem sicker. This is how they do it. Journalist Natalie Shore added privatized Medicare plans cherry pick healthier enrollees, fudge medical records to make them look as sick as possible, coax doctors into taking on extra sham diagnoses to bill for, and pay themselves a profit on top of it. Medicare Advantage shouldn't exist. Now, of course, why does it exist in the first place? And the answer to that is, first, Republicans. Remember, Medicare Advantage happened during the Bush years. It was created by congressional Republicans who 2 decades ago created it to, quote unquote, encourage health insurers to find innovative ways to provide better care at a lower cost. And as we can see now, it's not only worse care, but at a higher cost. So that is, of course, it was a lie. It was always a lie. And it was basically made to be that way. Now, Matt Brunig noted this. The notion that private insurers would provide more benefit for less money is their argument than traditional Medicare while taking a profit is insane on its face. And of course it is. We knew that because it's obvious. The private market does not work well for this. Not for healthcare. You want to make shoes, make shoes. That's a private market thing. But healthcare? No, you're insane. Of course, they're either going to raise prices and price people out, or take in more, in this case, government money, and still lower standards of care so that they spend less money. But so, look, everyone in Capitol Hill knows this, and that's the point. Politicians know it, but it doesn't matter because these same politicians get greased by these companies because we have, in this country, legalized bribery in the form of campaign contributions. And that's how they get away with it. They'll always get away with it. Health insurance companies, who are among the largest and most prosperous in the nation, have developed these elaborate systems in order to try to make their patients appear sicker without providing any additional treatment. As a result, the program that has been devised to help lower healthcare spending has become substantially more costly, according to the report, than the traditional government program it was meant to so-called improve. Government now spends nearly as much on Medicare Advantage's 29 million beneficiaries as on the Army and Navy combined. And by the way, right-wingers use that argument to say, oh, see, we're spending so much money on healthcare, now we have to privatize it. No, that's the point. They go and they break these programs. They do these public-private nonsense partnerships, or they privatize certain things, which drives up the cost, and they say, look how much it costs. I guess we just have to privatize it more. It's disgusting. This is how they work. Now, the additional diagnoses, by the way, led to $12 billion in overpayments in 2020, according to an estimate from the group that advises Medicare on payment policies. And by the way, that is actually enough to cover hearing and vision care for every American over 65. Another estimate from a former top government health official suggested that the payments were actually more than double that, around $25 billion. Citing a KFF study that found that companies typically rake in twice as much gross profit from MA plans as from other types of insurance, the Times pointed out that growing privatization of Medicare is strikingly lucrative. So let me just point out that this is the New York Times. Sometimes, I'm saying times too much. But look, occasionally they do some really good investigative reporting. Now, again, I know this is stuff that we all know, and we can all feel it kind of intrinsically, right? But there are so many people that don't know this stuff. There's so many people that don't understand exactly how they're screwing you. You all know that you're being screwed. I mean, that's a feeling, of course, right? We can figure that much out. But just how much? Putting a dollar figure to it and seeing exactly how they're gaming the system, I think that's really important. I think that's incredibly valuable. And so that's why these, these studies, these investigative reports are very, very helpful. And again, this also, by the way, goes against other for-profit industry talking points like choice. Again, right-wingers and conservative Democrats who are being paid off, by the way, by the health insurance industry, they'll say, well, look, we have to do this because it increases your choice. Well, it turns out, no, it reduces choice. Medicare Advantage plans have limited patients' choice of doctors and even require sometimes jumping through more hoops before getting certain types of expensive care. But they also point out, well, there's lower premiums and perks like dental benefits, which, of course, if you're massively overpaying for this, then maybe, yeah, if they throw in a little bit of dental, maybe not as bad. No, still really, really bad. And dental should not be a luxury thing that is paid for by screwing everyone else out of money. No, it should be available to every single American, not just people over 65, but to everyone. Medicare for all, that's what we need to have in this country. And by the way, if you cut out these private, private for-profit healthcare industries, health insurance industries, or companies, you can actually start affording to be able to cover everyone under Medicare for all. In fact, numerous studies have found that implementing single payer would guarantee the provision of life-saving care for every person in the country, while also reducing overall spending by as much as $650 billion per year. You have to cut out the private for-profit motive in healthcare. Not only do you save money, but you also save lives, because then people will actually have healthcare, guaranteed. That's the way it works in every other modern industrial country that actually gives a damn about its people. But the reason that they don't do it is because of greed. Lobbying. Look, Health Committee Chair Richard Neal, who's a Democrat, has received about $3.1 million from the health insurance industry, the most in the House. He's one of the leading opponents of Medicare for all. It's not the only one. Most of them are against single-payer health care. They're bankrolled by health insurance companies, the same companies that continue to rob us blind. Got to eliminate that corrupting influence of money in politics, and so that we can finally say hell no to more privatization like Medicare Advantage and actually expand healthcare instead of ruin it for everyone else. Oh, that's all I got today. Like that was a pretty heavy show. All right, so before we go, again, I want to thank TYT for the raid. Very, very kind. Appreciate that. Thank you for all the follows. Also appreciate that. CW Purcell 75, thank you for subbing with Prime. Appreciate that. SBloom 85, thank you for subbing with Prime for 22 months. Awesome. Awesome. Let's see. Let's go to Super Chats and member. Let's see. Member notifications. Let's see. Maridarno, thank you very much for the Super Chat. Happy New Waldorf Week. Thank you. Boulder Crypto Sissy Dragon, thank you for becoming, re-upping as a member for 25 months. Appreciate that. Another month older. Lulz. Lulz, yes, lulz for everyone. Jonathan Leiter says, top secret documents are very absorbent. That's all the flushing.
People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, where the water rushes out to sea because you could never handle it.
You could never handle it. You could never handle all the flushing. So much flushing. Gabby Mathis says, I'm on Medicare and it's very expensive. All private insurance has to go now. Couldn't agree more. And also, thank you for the Medicare story. You're welcome. It's a very, very important issue that does need to be talked about. All right. So, yeah. Top secret documents don't flush easily. It's true. It's very, very true. All right. We raid into today. So Twitch followers, I think, what is the majority report is on? What is going on here? All right. Why don't we do that? So majority report live on Twitch. Let's raid into them. It looks like Emma Vigland. So that's something that we haven't done in a while. So hey, TYT viewers, make sure to let Majority Report know that I sent you. All right. To everyone else, really, really appreciate you. Please come back. 4 p.m. Eastern every day, Monday through Friday, here on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, live, all that stuff. All right, with everyone else, again, love you all. Have a great day. Oh, is it a sports show? Sports ball? Oh no, it's the sports ball. That's okay. Surfs aren't on or anything like that. So if you like the sports ball, then I'm sure you'll enjoy Emma. Maybe she'll work in some politics. You never know. All right, everybody. Again, thank you all. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We will see you all back here, hopefully, tomorrow.
I will eat your ass. Oh no!
Don't do it. I tell you, don't do it. Up yours, wolf moralists. We'll see who cancels who.
Disappointed!
Sexual anarchy.
Well, I do not consent. I apologize for nothing. I concede nothing.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.
We will keep kicking your ass every single day.